Hi there and welcome to our session on managing business intelligence projects. In this week's session we're going to look at five key areas. We're going to first of all take a look at just what a business intelligence project is. We're then going to have a little look at some of the project successes and failures and some of the drivers behind those various projects. We're then going to take a look at the characteristics of a business intelligence project. And then we're going to move on and look at a little bit about the aim of project management and also the project management life cycle. So first of all, let's take a look at business intelligence projects. So a business intelligence project originates from what we call a business intelligence strategy. And this is about the overall direction of an organisation and how it wants to incorporate BI into everything that it does. We then move on and we form a business intelligence roadmap. This is developed by the organisation and looks at all the things that we need to do over a period of time in order to successfully implement business intelligence within the organisation. We then come up with what we call a business intelligence programme, a programme of projects. So this is not just one project, but a whole series of projects which are then agreed by the organisation. And we then aim to prioritise those projects to make sure that we get a synergy between the projects. And by synergy, what we mean is making sure that we do things in the right order and making sure that the right things are done at the right time to help other projects going forward. Once we've created our business intelligence programme of projects, we then move on and we make sure that our information and our data architectures are agreed, and we've talked about information and data architectures in some of our previous sessions. So looking then first of all at some of the characteristics of a business intelligence project, there are a number of things that we can say about a BI project. First of all, the technology environment in which the business operates is constantly changing, and so for a BI project to be implemented over a period of years makes it very difficult when the technology itself and the business itself is also constantly changing. The second area is that because we are tending to work with cutting edge technologies, it can be very difficult to attract and retain key staff. And you can understand that staff highly trained in these areas will often work for multiple organisations and move on quite quickly as the market dictates. There's also a need to manage extensive user involvement. Gone are the days when an IT project could be led and implemented by the IT people alone. Business intelligence, by its very definition and nature, means it has to have a high input from the staff within the business and the users that are going to use the system. One of the other characteristics is that many of the solutions that are out there have never actually been tried before, due to the fact that we are using the latest technologies. And of course, using the latest technology means that in many cases there are things that we don't fully understand, implications need to be worked out more fully, and so on. And finally, one of the other problems is that the technology itself may change during the life of the project. And so what we need to do is to make sure that when our BI programs of projects are put in place, we need to make sure that it is technology independent, if you like, and that we can cater for changes over the course of the projects. Taking a look at some of the reasons for project success or conversely project failure, a lot of the reasons can be put down to this sort of selection of things. Projects tend to fail at the start of the project rather than at the end. And some of the reasons for this are, first of all, an inexperience within the team itself. We've said that we're using cutting edge technology, latest techniques, and people with that sort of background are very difficult to actually get hold of. The second reason for a failure is, again, a lack of user involvement. We need to make sure that our users are involved right the way from the start of the project through to the very end of it. Some projects suffer initially from very unclear business objectives. Sometimes when we do the analysis for our BI roadmap, the tendency is to move on and not fully define exactly what we actually need in all of the areas of the business. And of course what this does is lead to unclear business objectives as we get into the project, and of course we use those as a foundation which permeate through the project and lead to failure later on. One of the other areas is a lack of senior management support. Projects of this nature need to have the support of the senior people within the organisation and shouldn't be technology or IT department led. They need to come from senior figures within the business. One of the other areas is that of unreliable estimates. We all know how difficult it is to simply estimate the easiest of things in life, and so when we deal with complex projects of this nature, estimation is absolutely key to a successful project. Sometimes one of the reasons for failure is a lack of project management methodology, a lack of knowing how we're going to organise things. There are a number of traditional project management methodologies out there, along with other more recent and more modern techniques like agile methods. All of these need to be considered and one chosen to help with the actual project itself. And finally then, a new software or technology infrastructure, dealing with new software or new technology within what we might consider to be an unstable business or organisational environment. And all of these things can actually lead to a project failure in the long term. So moving on then, looking at the aim of project management itself. Well, successful project management aims to deliver a project on time, within budget, and to the required quality. That means it's fitness for purpose, if you like. But there's always a constant tension between the three factors: time, budget, and quality or functionality. A normal project will have one factor fixed. Often the factor that is fixed is that of time. If time is fixed, of course, then quality will depend upon the amount of money available in order to achieve the project. Alternatively, if we fix quality, and that is to say that all of the functionality must work 100%, then the cost will depend upon the time available. And so there's a trade-off between these three areas. And finally, if cost and time are both fixed, well, not only have you got a very difficult project on your hand, but quality, the functionality of the deliverable may, if time and cost are fixed, have to be reduced in order to deliver to the budget or to the actual time. And of course, depending upon the application, we tend to look at each of those different three constraints in a different way. If it was perhaps a piece of insurance or tax software that needs to be in place for April for our next tax cycle, then time would be fixed, wouldn't it? And so we would spend as much money and deliver as much functionality as we could, but it would need to be in for April the 5th in order to be of any use. If it was perhaps some software for something that was a little bit more dangerous or life-threatening, maybe software for an aircraft or software for a nuclear power station, then the crucial thing there would be to make sure that functionality was right, the quality was right. And so inevitably we would tend to put more money or more time into this in order to make it happen. But from a project management point of view, it's important to realise that there is always a trade-off between those three constraints. So now we'll take a look at the project management life cycle. It's important to have a project management life cycle in place and for all of the project team to work to that life cycle. One of the project management life cycles that's quite traditional looks a little bit like this. We're first of all having a planning phase where we work out exactly what it is that we need to do, and that's a very important stage of a project to ensure that we actually know what we're going to be doing in the project. We then spend some time analysing and working out what the impact will be on other systems and how we're going to go about actually implementing this particular system. And then we move on to a design stage. And this is where we decide every little detail of the particular system, how it's going to work, and so on. And then we move on to the testing phase, and we test it not only at a unit level but also at a business level as well. And so for a BI system we would go through and we would test each of the BI tools, making sure that it delivered the right sort of outputs for us, that they were usable and that were what our business community expected. And then finally, implementation. This is when we roll out the system and we put it live so that our user groups can use it. And of course that's not the end of the story. Given that a lot of these systems will have a life cycle of maybe 5 or 10 years, there's then a maintenance part of the life cycle where people make sure that systems remain working and remain functioning as changes go on throughout the organisation. So I hope this has been a useful session to you. We've looked a little bit at business intelligence projects. We've looked a little bit at the characteristics of them and also how they fail or how they're successful. And then we've furthered that by looking at the aim of project management and also taken a look at some traditional life cycles that we might use in order to deliver a successful project. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope it's been helpful to you. Thanks.